Welcome to ESL listening practice. Picture this scenario. You are standing at a party or maybe, sitting in a meeting at work.
Right, and you're right in the middle of a sentence.
Exactly. You are mid-sentence. The English vocabulary is flowing naturally. You are feeling confident. The rhythm of the language is finally clicking, and then bam, you hit an invisible wall.
You completely freeze up.
Yeah. You are suddenly wondering, wait, do I use the word say or do I use the word tell?
Oh, it is the universal roadblock. I mean, I have worked with English learners from all over the world, and I have seen people from Brazil, Japan, Germany, just, experience that exact same moment of panic.
It happens to everyone.
It really does. You have this brilliant thought in your head, but suddenly you are doubting a basic three-letter word. You guess, and sometimes you can see that tiny, polite look of confusion flash across the native speaker's face.
Ugh. That look of confusion is the absolute worst. It is so incredibly frustrating because, well, let's be honest, these are words you probably encountered in your very first month of studying English.
Oh, absolutely.
But because they are used constantly, they become a habit. And if you form the wrong habit early on, it is just incredibly hard to break. So our mission today is to fix this permanently.
Permanently.
As native speakers who spend our lives analyzing how English works, we want to give you, the listener, the mental tools to never guess again. We are putting say and tell under the microscope.
And to fix this mistake forever, we have to move away from, memorizing dry grammar rules. We need to start thinking about how native English speakers actually visualize the world when they speak.
Because they aren't thinking about grammar charts.
Not at all. The reason native speakers know instinctively which word to use is because they are picturing two completely different actions in their minds.
I think that is the secret key right there. So, put us inside the mind of a native speaker. What is the picture they actually see?
Well, it all comes down to where your mental camera is pointing. When a native speaker uses the word say, their mental camera is zoomed in entirely on the words themselves.
Okay, so just the words.
Right. The focus is on the actual sounds, the vocabulary, the literal sentence coming out of a person's mouth. But when a native speaker uses the word tell, the camera pans out.
It zooms out.
Exactly. The focus completely shifts away from just the words and moves toward the person who is receiving that information.
Okay, so say focuses on the words and tell focuses on the person. That is our foundation.
It is, and it leads us directly to what we can call the golden rule for these two verbs. If you walk away from our conversation today with only one piece of information, let it be this. You absolutely must use a person after the word tell every single time.
I want to make this concept impossible to forget. So let's use a mental image to really lock this in. I want you to compare using the word tell to throwing a baseball.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, think about how a game of catch works. You do not just stand alone on a baseball field, wind up your arm, and throw a baseball into the empty air. That makes no sense.
No, the ball would just hit the dirt.
Right. If you are going to pitch a baseball, you have to throw it to someone. You need a catcher waiting with a glove.
That is a perfect way to visualize the mechanics of the language.
So the word tell is the pitch, and it always needs a catcher. It needs a human being or, at least an animal or an audience standing there to catch the information. Say, on the other hand, is just throwing the words out there into the universe.
You are just producing the sound.
Exactly.
And that analogy explains why native speakers get that confused look on their faces when a learner makes a mistake. With say, you are just producing words. I mean, you can say something out loud when you are completely alone in your car.
You are just tossing the ball up into the air for yourself.
Right. But tell is an exchange. It is a transaction between two people. It requires a sender and a receiver. If there is no catcher, you simply cannot use the word tell.
Now that we have this image of the pitcher and the catcher, let's bring it into the real world. Let's look at how we build actual everyday sentences.
Because this is where intermediate learners usually trip up.
Exactly. Let's break down the basic sentence structures, starting with say.
So the structure for say gives you two basic paths you can take. The first path is the simplest. It is just the word say, followed by the thing that was spoken. For example, she said she was tired.
Let me pause right there to highlight what is missing. In the sentence, she said she was tired. There is no catcher.
None at all.
We have absolutely no idea who she was talking to. Maybe she was talking to her boss, maybe to her husband, or maybe she was just talking to herself in the mirror. The camera is pointed only at her words. She was tired.
Precisely. The audience is irrelevant to the sentence. Now, there is a second path for the word say. Sometimes you do want to mention the person who is listening, but you have to use a specific structural bridge to get there.
The bridge.
Yeah, the structure is say, plus the words that were spoken, plus the word to, plus the person. For example, he said to me, hello, or she said to John that she was leaving.
Ah, okay. So I am allowed to mention a person with say, but I am forced to use that little word to.
Yes, the word to is mandatory there. It shows the direction of the words.
It acts like a bridge connecting the words to the listener.
Exactly. Now let's compare that to the structure for tell. The structure for tell is much more direct, much faster, really, because the person receiving the information is the most important part of the action.
Right, because of the catcher rule.
Yes. The structure is simply tell, plus the person, plus the information. For example, she told me she was tired. Or he told us the plan.
Notice the difference in speed there. She told me she was tired. There is no bridge. There is no to. The catcher is standing right next to the verb, tell plus me, tell plus John, tell plus us.
And this leads us directly into the trap that catches so many learners. Because these two words are so similar in meaning, learners tend to mix the grammar structures together.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, let's look at the absolute worst mistakes you can make, the ones that sound immediately unnatural to native ears. The first major mistake is when someone says, she told something.
Oh, wow. I hear that one often. She told something. It feels like the sentence just, well, it feels like it fell off a cliff.
It feels incomplete because you threw the base call, but there was no catcher. The listener's brain is literally left waiting for you to finish the sentence. She told. Who? Who did she tell?
Because the golden rule says you must use a person right after tell.
Exactly. So she told something is grammatically broken.
Okay, here is the other massive mistake, and we really need to focus on this one. I hear this constantly in conversation. She said me something.
Oh, yes, that is a classic error.
Wait, hold on. Let me step into the shoes of a learner for a second. If I am speaking English at work, I want to be fast and fluent. People drop words in English all the time.
They do, yes.
So I know I can use a person with, say, if I add to, like, he said to me. So why can't I just drop the word to and speed up my sentence? Why can't I ever just say, she said me something?
That is a highly logical question. In fact, it is exactly why learners fall into this trap. In many other languages like Spanish, French, or Italian, you can translate that structure directly and it works perfectly. You just attach the pronoun to the verb.
Right, exactly.
But in English, remember our core rule. Say focuses exclusively on the words themselves. The object that comes immediately after the word say is assumed to be the vocabulary that was spoken.
Oh, wow, wait. So if I say, she said me.
The native speaker's brain actually thinks me was the spoken word.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, the native speaker pictures a woman opening her mouth and just shouting the word M-E into the room.
It sounds like she is a very strange, self-obsessed person just walking around saying, me, me, me.
Exactly. By dropping the word to, you remove the bridge. You accidentally made me the object being spoken instead of the person catching the information.
That paints such a funny picture, but it makes so much sense. It totally changes the reality of the sentence. By missing one tiny word, I accidentally told a story about someone shouting their own name.
It is a dangerous trap.
Okay, so we have the foundational rules. Say focuses on words. Tell needs a person, a catcher.
But as you and I both know, mastering English is not just about memorizing grammar rules. It is also about rhythm, flow, and collocations.
Collocations. Let's explain that term for a second. These are just chunks of words that naturally live together. Native speakers don't build every single sentence word by word, like putting together puzzle pieces.
No, we use fixed patterns. We pull whole chunks of words from our memory at once.
Exactly. And while our baseball rule helps us build original sentences, there are some fixed cultural patterns with say and tell that learners simply need to observe and memorize.
Let's go through some of the most common ones you will hear in everyday conversation.
Let's start with say. What are the chunks of words that are always paired with say?
Well, the most common patterns usually involve greetings or very simple statements of fact. We say hello and we say goodbye, we say yes and we say no.
Very straightforward.
Yeah, we say something and we say nothing. And a very common idiomatic phrase is to say a word, which is almost always used in a negative sentence. For example, if someone is being very quiet, you would remark, he didn't say a word the entire meeting.
Notice how all of those fit perfectly with our core rule. Hello, goodbye, yes, something, a word. These are all just pure vocabulary. They are sounds. The camera is pointed entirely at the words being produced.
Exactly.
Now, what about the patterns for tell?
The common patterns for tell are conceptually different, We tell the truth, we tell a story, we tell a lie, and we tell a secret. For example, you might say, my grandmother told me a wonderful story.
Now, wait a minute. I have a bone to pick with this rule.
Oh, how so?
Well, we just spent all this time establishing that say is supposed to be about words and tell is supposed to be about a person receiving information. But you just said we use tell for a story or lie or the truth.
Right?
A story is literally just a bunch of words.
Yeah.
A lie is just fake words. Why don't we say a story?
I'm so glad you brought that up because understanding this nuance really elevates your English from intermediate to advanced. Yes, technically a story is made up of words. But think about the social nature of a story or a lie or a secret.
Okay, I am thinking about it.
These are not just random sounds thrown into the empty air. They are things that are inherently, by definition, shared with an audience.
Because they have a purpose.
Exactly. You do not tell a secret to an empty room because a secret requires another human being to hear it.
And agree to keep it.
Yes. A lie requires someone else to be deceived by it. You cannot lie if no one is listening. A story requires an audience to be entertained.
I see. The audience is baked right into the definition of the word.
Precisely. There is always an implied listener. So even if you do not explicitly name the catcher, even if you just say a general statement like, John tells great stories, the concept of an audience is built into the phrase itself.
Wow, so it perfectly fits our tell equals person rule because stories require people.
It does.
That is a massive light bulb moment. You can't have a lie without someone being lied to. The catcher is invisible, but they are always there.
Exactly. And this brings us to what we call the special cases. These are situations where you absolutely must use tell and you can never use say, specifically because of that implied audience.
Okay, what are the special cases?
You must use tell with these 4 specific concepts. Tell someone the truth, tell someone a lie, tell someone a story, and tell someone the time.
Tell someone the time. That is an interesting one, like looking at your watch and answering someone's question.
Yes, when you tell the time, you are providing specific, requested information to a person who asked for it. It is a direct transaction. We really have to emphasize the error here because it happens frequently in conversation.
Yeah, a learner might translate directly from their native language and say, she said me the truth.
Right, but based on the mental picture we have built today, we know that is wrong. The correct phrase, the natural phrase, must be, she told me the truth.
She told me the truth. The transaction is complete. Okay, let's move on to our final big scenario for today.
Sounds good.
We have looked at the mental picture, we have looked at basic sentences, and we have explored the fixed chunks of words. But the ultimate test for using these words naturally in your daily life is something called reported speech.
Oh, reported speech is incredibly common. It is the engine of human gossip, business updates, and casual conversation. It is simply when you are repeating what someone else stated.
You become the messenger.
Exactly, passing along information from one person to another.
Think about how often this happens in your day. You have a quick meeting with your boss, and then you have to go explain to your team what the boss said. Or you talk to a friend on the phone, and then you have to summarize that drama for your partner at dinner.
You are constantly reporting speech.
Right.
And when you are reporting speech, you frequently find yourself with a choice between 2 perfectly correct grammatical forms. Let's imagine your coworker, John, is not available for a meeting.
Okay, John is busy.
You could report this to your team by saying, he said that he was busy, or you could report it by saying, he told me that he was busy.
And just a quick note for natural speaking, you can drop the word that in spoken English to sound more fluid. So it becomes, he said he was busy versus he told me he was busy.
Correct. Both of those sentences are grammatically flawless.
Both sentences communicate the exact same underlying fact. John is busy. But the structure changes purely based on whether you want to include the catcher in your sentence.
Exactly.
He said he was busy, points the camera, just to John's words. He told me he was busy, includes the catcher me. Tell needs a person, say does not.
That is our golden rule functioning perfectly in the wild.
But here is my struggle. As someone trying to speak fluently, having 2 correct options almost makes it harder.
It can feel that way, yes.
If both are correct, how on earth do I decide which one to use when I am standing in the office talking to my colleagues?
It does require a split-second decision. My advice is to think like a storyteller. It depends entirely on whether the person who received the message is important to your story.
Okay, so ask yourself, does my listener care who received the information?
Yes. Does it add drama or context? If who they were talking to matters, use tell. If only the factual information matters, use say.
Let's give a really concrete example of that to make it clear.
Yeah.
Imagine you are at the end-of-year company party. The room is crowded.
Okay, setting the scene.
The CEO of the company walks right up to you, personally, looks you in the eye, and announces that everyone is getting a surprise bonus.
Yeah.
When you run over to your friends to report this news, you are definitely going to use tell. You're going to say, the CEO told me we are getting a bonus.
Why? Because the fact that the CEO spoke directly to you is a massive part of the excitement.
Exactly. The personal interaction is the juicy part of the gossip. I want my friends to know I was the catcher. It gives me status in the story.
That is a brilliant example. The interaction between the CEO and you is central to the narrative. But let's change the scenario. What if you just read a general email sent to the entire company, or you just heard a vague rumor from a crowd in the hallway?
Oh, then I might run over to my friends and just say, the CEO said we are getting a bonus.
Right. In that case, you are not the catcher. The focus is 100% on the incredible news itself.
The money is the star of the sentence. It doesn't matter who the CEO is talking to when the email was written.
That makes the decision process so much easier. Are you highlighting the human connection, the interaction, the drama of the exchange? Use tell. Are you highlighting just the raw facts, the data, the words themselves? Use say.
And if you ever find yourself panicking mid-sentence, just let the grammar guide you. If you know the very next word out of your mouth is going to be me, him, her, us, or a person's name like Sarah, you have your catcher. You must use tell.
It is a reliable safety net.
Let's bring all of this together. We have covered a lot of ground, but we want to give you, the listener, the ultimate, super easy memory trick to take away from today's practice. Whenever you find yourself hesitating, just visualize this simple equation. Say equals words, tell equals person.
It really is that straightforward. If there is a person right after the verb, use tell. If there is no person right after the verb, use say.
Remember the baseball pitch. You need a catcher for tell. And remember our funny mental image. You can never ever drop the two and say she said me unless you want people to picture someone shouting their own name into a room.
That is the ultimate trap to avoid.
Well, you have made it to the end of our conversation today, and your conversational English is already sharper for it. You now have the tools to handle these words like a native speaker. But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final puzzle to explore on your own.
Now that you know say focuses entirely on the words and tell focuses on the person, what do you think happens when we introduce other common communication verbs into the mix? Verbs like speak or talk.
Ooh, that is a fantastic question to chew on. Think about it as you go about your day. Do speak and talk follow the word's rule, where they stand alone without a catcher? Or do they follow the person rule, where they demand a receiver?
Pay close attention to the native speakers you hear tomorrow, whether you are watching a movie, sitting in a meeting, or listening to people chat at a coffee shop, and see if you can spot exactly how they deploy those words.
You will start noticing these invisible patterns everywhere now that you know the mechanics of how they work. It really opens up a new level of listening.
It absolutely does.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's English practice. Keep listening, keep analyzing those everyday conversations, and don't be afraid to throw those words out there. We will catch you next time.